Hello there, good evening and welcome along to Business Today. I'm Jerome Paul Sonko with Winnie Buyinza Nakauchi on sign language. It is a cold evening and it's the 17th of October 2022 and we are here to give you more from your daily report. We've got details regarding the oil and gas sector, climate change, private schools and income tax amongst the top stories we have for you tonight. But to begin with, we start with Macquarie University students and the public who want more job apprenticeship and job opportunities in the oil and gas sector. They believe increased local content and locals employed in the oil and gas sector will provide youth with significant earnings and empower them socially and economically. Opportunities have grown to include contractors and subcontractors developing the sector with more linkages that the youth could utilize. We have more of this report.
The oil and gas sector is not a massive employer. 160,000 jobs are created, but there are sectorial linkages that can be put to use.
Of excitement, the youth are going to get jobs, all the unemployed, And so the study revealed that the new jobs that will come about as from these projects are 160,000 jobs only. We are a young population. Over 50% of Uganda's population is under the age of 30. Oil and gas is not a mass employer. And that goes back to the very first question that someone asked. How are we making sure oil and gas contributes to other sectors of the economy? Agriculture employs 80% of the adult population. And then you have tourism and other sectors. So what we are saying is that, number one, not everyone will work in the oil and gas sector directly. Now, what happens to the people that have, that have qualifications, that have studied, etc.? There are opportunities that may come outside Uganda, but the bigger opportunities are under the other sectors that are related to oil and gas. For example, we have Auditor General's Office that is hiring geologists. Why? Because they come in to audit recoverable costs. They come in. So they have to have people that understand. If Total said we needed this equipment, does an auditor understand the importance of this equipment? We have banks that are employing engineers. We
will onboard and will offer, I would say, a 2 years training program for more than 200 people. We'll start with the first batch Q1 next year. There will be a big gathering of all the 220 selected in November. We'll bring them all together to explain them and give them visibility of what's going to happen. There will be a first batch of 1/3 that will start their journey Q1 23. Second batch, I would say end of Q2 and or middle of Q2, and the third batch Q3 23.
We as students and the youth have been encouraged to look out for opportunities from the contractors and the operator companies. There are also various opportunities for local companies from Uganda to actively participate within the industry to be able to enhance the local content and value retention within the country. So this symposium is able to bring that information to us and to everyone outside there to be able to know what are the opportunities that are within the oil and gas industry.
The National Environmental Management Authority approved the environmental site assessments in 2020. These sites are used to describe and assess the potential social, health, human rights, and environmental impacts of a project. The impacts are then minimized or avoided depending on the circumstances while maximizing and enhancing the project's advantages.
Sensitivity considerations. This at least you can see an elephant and petroleum activities happening. These are some of the most sensitive creatures. They do not like to be disturbed. Someone once I took long, person I also learned after taking time there, that even if they have big ears, their big ears are for pulling them. They are for fanning and pulling. But if it wants to call its baby, it calls its baby using vibrations in its feet. Okay? So they communicate using their feet. They do not communicate verbally, or the ears are, You see? So when you begin doing your seismic activities, you can affect these creatures. But we need to understand this and know, you see? And so when we understand, we know how to coexist with them. We know how to reduce these impacts. And that's why I said the sensitivity considerations are issues that we needed to know.
An official from ECOP was able to answer some of the environmental controversial questions surrounding the pipeline.
Corridor. One of the reasons we want 30 meters for the construction is the first thing to do is to clear the bush, but then move and store the topsoil on the side of that 30 meters. So we need roughly 5 meters of the 30 meters is to store the topsoil, where we can then put it back when the construction activities are finished. And because we keep the same topsoil that was there in the first place, then the indigenous vegetation can grow back, and so a pipeline is, in my opinion, a low impact environmental activity.
Rana Habwe, Business Today, Smart 24 TV.
All right, now, climate activists have expressed concern over the increasing levels of food insecurity, and this has been caused by climate change. Over the last couple of months, the country and the East African region have been experiencing unusually longer dry spells that have led to hunger and starvation. The 2022 edition of the East Africa Food Security Symposium and Expo is a solution to understanding the socio-economic transformation through full monetization, mechanization, and the electrification of the economy. Naame Mutumba.
According to the government's view on food insecurity, Karamoja leads the other drought-affected sub-regions with 41% of the population, followed by Teso at 21.4% and Acholi at 19.4%. Other sub-regions affected by the drought include Buganda at 17.7%, Bunyoro, Onkole and Chigezi at 4.2% respectively. The government requested 300 billion Ugandan shillings from the Ministry of Finance in August to address the food insecurity that has spread across the nation, but this problem still exists.
Trying to mobilize up to 300 billion shillings, and this is going to cover 2 seasons, also answering the question of time frame. We are looking at the 2 seasons. This season of August, September to November, December, then also the season.
The East Africa Food Security Symposium and Expo's 2022 edition is a way to understand how the economy would change due to full monetization, mechanization, and electrification. In a speech on behalf of the President of Uganda, Honorable Winifred Chakulaga, the Minister of State for Agriculture, Fisheries and Animal Industries, says that it is important to raise awareness of the effects of climate change in East African nations so that strategies to improve food security and reduce its effects can be developed.
Countries within the East African region to plan, budget, and implement commitments to address climate change, food security, nutrition, and the well-being of the common person.
Experts claim that instances of food security are a sign that strategic response mechanisms, such as those for storing, transporting and distributing food, processing and preserving seeds, have failed. Because of this, exhibitors argue that technology that can be used on farms needs to be accepted rapidly.
It's designed for what's called conservation agriculture, so making the soil, protecting the soil, building soil health, putting carbon back into the soil, which is going to again help with the climate. So all the implements are here. So instead of ploughing, where you plough the field and you dig up the field, you dig up the soil, all the carbon is then released, which is, we talked about, carbon is affecting climate, okay? With this, you can see here, you only open a small slot, there's a seeder, opens a small slot, puts the seed and the fertilizer directly in and closes. So the soil is being kept as is.
Where we have reached mostly when it comes to innovation, and we want Ugandans to know that at least we have reached far when it comes to innovation.
Food security in the East African region is faced with challenges like insecurity, decreasing area of arable and agricultural land.
On the table, make sure there is food on the table, manage in a sustainable way. Number 2, energy. We need energy to pump up our economies to end poverty. So 2 issues are being solved at the same time. Climate change, food insecurity.
The world is facing challenges occasioned by climate change, which has been and remains a major challenge for the current times in as far as food security is concerned. As you are aware, human beings thrive on food for sustainability and survival. And this is not about to change.
The solution is to understand the social and economic transformation through full monetization, mechanizing, and electrification of the economy.
One of the issues is that we have to live a sustainable way. All of us. It's everybody, household, lifestyle must change. The way we drive, how we drive, what we eat, what we throw away. Number 2, plant more trees. Number 3, push government to remove taxes from the gas tanks, because when you remove gases from the gas tanks, the cost of gas will become cheaper. It will be cheaper than a sack of charcoal, and the appetite for the charcoal will go low in the cities, thus making the trees grow and thrive countryside.
The symposium is meant to contribute solutions to the global challenges of climate change and food security, promoting awareness of the linkages of the impacts of climate change and focusing on safeguarding communities from hunger. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Private school proprietors in Uganda have failed to resolve some common issues. And last week, there was a proposal which was put up asking the government to exclude them from paying income tax. However, some proprietors of other private schools are against the same proposal. The Private School Owners Association Communications Officer has reached out to Smart 24 TV with our reporter, Pedison Mombere, and this is what he got.
The Uganda Revenue Authority recently met with the owners of the private education institutions in Uganda on how to cope up with the tax regime. However, among the issues was on payment of income tax. Most urged the difficulty in paying this tax because of the value-added tax that already payable on the amenities like water, food, electricity and school transport, among others. They therefore called on government to exempt them from paying income tax. They said that they need to collectively meet whoever made the law because their schools are going to collapse. I spoke with Christopher Chiwanuka, the Association of Proprietors of Private Education Institutions Communications Coordinator. He disagreed with his colleagues in education, but underlined the need for policy uniformity.
We really don't believe in exemption. Piao believes that if anybody makes income, should pay tax. And I want to emphasize that. This is the philosophy of our association, Piao. If anybody makes income, let him pay tax, because there is a mechanism between this person and the government to prove that you have made taxable income or not. But not simply to leave somebody quit with 3 million shillings per student for 2,000 students a term. That means 9 million shillings a year from a parent on one child times 2,000 students, and you say it's exempt. And then you come to this other school which is charging 1 million shillings a term, which is 3 million shillings a year, and spends 100% of its cost, capital and revenue on that money, and you say that one is taxable. You can't impose this requirement on these ones alone.
According to Income Tax Act, schools registered as companies pay tax at the rate of 30%, while those registered by individuals pay progressive tax of up to 10, 20 to 30%. Educationists urge that they are providing a service that the government should be doing. Therefore, the need for a special touch is paramount. The tax exemption proposal came along with demand for government to drop the plan to fix the school fees levied by private schools.
Piao says that government has to harmonize its regulatory mechanism. Why should you regulate the school fees of private schools which are charging 1 million and you leave the government-aided schools which are charging 3 million shillings uncontrolled? you have structures, the Board of Governors, the Parent Teachers Associations, which are the two bodies that are supposed to assist government to oversee the regulation of school fees. But you will be surprised to find that when you go into some of these schedules of school fees of some schools, the Board of Governors and PTAs take the lion's share. Before even the student starts enjoying the benefit of education. A Board of Governor, you find a school fee structure, 600,000 is going to Board of Governors, 300,000 is going to PTA, before even they talk of the tuition.
Income tax is a national tax that is imposed on profits made by owners running these educational institutions and is only payable if the owner makes profits. A profit is the excess of revenue from business over expenditure in generating that income. The revenue for school is largely generated from school fees. However, many of these private schools are registered as private businesses. For a private business to avoid tax and yet benefit from some services that the rest of the Ugandans enjoy is the same as saying some are more equal than others. To put it to another way, these schools are operating in the economy that allows for them to purchase the ingredients that they need to set up their schools. Bedson Mumbe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now we talk matters value-added tax on animal feeds, as animal feeds and premixes were very deliberately exempted from paying value-added tax in April 2020 by the Ugandan Parliament in order to promote the expansion of the sector. This action was also intended to draw investment in the agriculture sector, which would later enhance productivity by 18%. However, the Uganda Revenue Authority has revoked these tax exemptions, shocking the animal farmers. This and more with Mary Goretti Nachiganda.
The Uganda Revenue Authority has announced that they would begin charging feeds that are imported into Uganda in the form of concentrates. This is basically on the assumption that feeds are neither specifically specified in the VAT Act nor in the list of goods that are subject to a zero rate under the East African Community Common Tariff Handbook. As the cost of feeding animals has increased, the Uganda Revenue Authority's new import duty of 10% and VAT levies of 18% on feeds and premises are posing a danger to the animal husbandry business.
We made it clear as farmers that we are not happy about URA's change in policy and abrupt communication internally to raise taxes without engaging the stakeholders, the farmers, Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Agriculture. We are sure they are taking the difference between animal feeds and premixes by face value, but not actually being categoric. Premixes are categoric. These products are not taxed in the whole of East African region. These products all qualify for exemption under HS code 23.09.90.10, and this is as well a standard practice internationally.
One strategy to revive this economy and give young people employment possibilities is to invest in agriculture. The population of Uganda is about 24 million, with 68% of the youth, 78% of these unemployed. Due to the high cost of production, this particular community of Ugandans will be forced to abandon agriculture as a result of the high taxes.
So they are affected because some of the youth, yes, we teach them how to be compliant, to make sure that their businesses are registered and they are paying taxes. But you find some of the youth want to do some of the things that don't attract taxes. And because of the feeds that have increased, the price of feeds that have increased, also our youth feel pressed so much to produce the meat that has not increased in the prices. So we would want that at least we want to pay taxes, but let them be reduced. For especially a youth who is in the village and really wants to grow and be a big investor, because most of our youth look ahead and they want to be big investors in Uganda.
According to Hafsa Seguia, a tax educator from URA, efforts to teach farmers about these various taxes and the VAT legislation, which aims to create a climate that supports agriculturalists, are underway in the agriculture sector.
In line with taxation, it's basically agribusiness. What are they supposed to do to be compliant? Which challenges are they facing? And basically, how can we come up as URA to help them mitigate the challenges? More dialogue will be done here and there to see that actually we're on the same path with them, we're on the same thinking with them.
Farmers, however, emphasize the necessity of stakeholders sitting down and re-evaluating this choice for the advancement and effectiveness of agriculture.
So we are calling upon URA to engage finance, to engage Parliament on what they intended to achieve in exempting VAT from the inputs used in making animal feeds, because I know the spirit of the law was to support the subsector to become more fruitful, to improve competitive production of chicken, piggery and all these animal products, which has actually increased our exports rather than the imports we were actually having before 2017.
As like URA are able to teach people the importance of paying taxes, and also gives a platform to our youth or the people we are working with to negotiate on some of the things that affect. Also, URA needs to know how the taxes affect our youth and our people.
Mary Great Nachiganda, Business Today. Smart 24 TV, driving business.
All right, and with that, we do take a break, but return with more from Business Today. Stick around to Smart 24.